Young billionaire buys twin homeless girls, sold by their stepmother, and is shocked to discover they are his daughters, presumed dead at birth. Grant Whitmore hated noise. The constant clamor of the big city pursued him like a waking nightmare. Impatient horns, loud cell phone conversations, music leaking from other people's headphones. At 30, he had already built his life around silence. His apartment was on the top floor of an old building, with double windows and thick curtains that blocked both sound and light. His job as a contract proofreader for a law firm allowed him to work from home most of the time. On that rainy Wednesday in October, however, Grant had to go out. An important client demanded his physical presence to sign some documents. Now, with a leather briefcase under his arm, he cut through downtown, eager to return to his sanctuary of quiet. "It's faster this way," he muttered to himself, turning into a narrow alley he knew well. This shortcut would save him 10 minutes on the main avenue, 10 minutes of noisy chaos he preferred to avoid at all costs. The alley looked different. Normally empty except for a few boxes and trash cans, it now held a scene that made Grant slow his steps instinctively. In the middle of the way, a woman in a faded red coat was gesturing at a man in a suit. Next to her, two small figures stood as still as statues. Grant almost turned back, but something about those two small silhouettes stopped him. They were children, two girls, so alike that they could only be sisters, maybe twins. They wore clothes that were far too large, dirty and torn. Their dark hair was tangled, and even from a distance, Grant noticed the emptiness in their eyes that had seen more than any child ever should. "500 for both, sir. It's a fair price." The woman's voice was harsh, like sandpaper. "You won't find a better deal anywhere." The man in the suit shook his head and hurried away, passing Grant without meeting his gaze. The woman cursed and pulled the girls closer. Grant stood frozen. The scene before him was so surreal, so horrible, that his brain took a moment to process. A woman selling children in broad daylight. It couldn't be real. The light rain trickled down his face, but he barely noticed. His eyes were fixed on the girls, on their hunched shoulders, on their vacant expressions. Without realizing it, Grant started to move toward them. The woman noticed him and immediately forced a smile, revealing yellowed teeth. "Hello, sir. Interested in my girls? 500 for both. They're good girls. Quiet. They don't cause any trouble." Grant felt a wave of nausea and anger rise in his throat. "You should be ashamed," he said, his voice louder than he intended. "Ashamed of selling children like merchandise." The woman, who must have been in her early 40s but looked much older, narrowed her eyes. "If you're not interested, move on. I don't need a lecture." Grant looked again at the girls. They were trembling, though he couldn't tell if it was from cold or fear. The smaller one, the one without a birthmark near her eye, was partially hiding behind her sister. Both stared fixedly at the ground, as if they had learned that meeting an adult's gaze could bring trouble. In that moment, something inside Grant, something that had lain dormant for years, woke up. Without hesitation, he pulled out his wallet and took out several bills. "Here are the 500D, he said, extending the money. "They're coming with me now." The woman grabbed the money quickly, counting it with nimble fingers. Satisfied, she stepped back. "They're yours now. No refunds." Grant crouched down to the girl's level. "Come with me," he said, softening his voice. "You deserve better than staying with her." The children looked at him with distrust, then at the woman as if asking for permission. "Go," the woman said curtly. "He paid for you." Grant resisted the impulse to say anything else to the woman. Instead, he extended his hands to the girls. "It's okay. I won't hurt you." They didn't take his hands back, but when he began to walk, they followed him like little ghosts. The woman had already disappeared at the other end of the alley, counting the money. "What are your names?" Grant asked, once they were a safe distance away. The girl with the birthmark looked up briefly. "I'm Nora," she said in a voice so soft he had to lean in to hear. "This is my sister, Hazel." "I'm taking you to my home," Grant explained. "It's dry and warm there, and there's food." At the mention of food, he noticed a spark in their eyes. He took off his coat and placed it over their shoulders, covering them both like an improvised umbrella. The entire way back to his apartment, Grant wondered what on earth he was doing. He had spent his whole life building a fortress of solitude and silence after losing everything he loved, and now he was bringing two children home. It was madness. He knew nothing about kids. He knew nothing about being responsible for another human being. But looking at those small, frightened faces, something in him, something he had buried along with his hopes years ago, resurfaced. A protective instinct he hadn't realized still existed. When they arrived at his building, the doorman gave a curious look at the two small and wet figures following Grant, but asked no questions. In the elevator, the girls pressed themselves against the opposite wall, as if wanting to keep as much distance from him as possible. "I live on the top floor," Grant said, trying to break the ice. "It's a quiet place. You'll like it." No response. Just two pairs of dark eyes watching his every move warily. When he finally opened the door to his apartment, he felt a strange embarrassment. The place was immaculately clean and organized, just the way he liked it, but it was obvious it wasn't a home for children. There were no bright colors, no toys, no sign of any life beyond his own. The walls were white, the furniture dark and minimalistic. The only personal touch was a bookshelf, carefully arranged by subject and size. "Come in," he said, holding the door. "Let's get dry and eat something." The girls entered slowly, looking around as if expecting a trap. Their bare, dirty feet left marks on the wooden floor. But for the first time in years, Grant didn't care about the mess. "The bathroom's over there," he pointed. "I'll get towels and—" He paused, realizing they would need dry clothes. "Wait here." In his bedroom, Grant frantically searched for anything that might fit. He found two clean t-shirts that would look like dresses on them. He also grabbed two unopened packs of socks, purchased and never used. It was the best he could offer at that moment. When he returned to the living room, he found the girls exactly where he'd left them, standing there soaked, making little puddles on the wooden floor. They seemed afraid to move without permission. "Here," he said, handing them the towels and clothes. "You can dry off and change in the bathroom. Then we'll eat." They took the items but didn't move. "Together," Hazel said, speaking for the first